Kenneth Koch, considered to be one of the important first-generation New York School poets, a friend of Ashbery and O'Hara and the others. He's represented in our course by a kind of an anthologizable poem that's not typical of his poems that are very much like Ashbery's and O'Hara's otherwise, but this is Variations on a Theme by William Carlos Williams, and it's a pastiche. And like the others, Koch wrote non-narrative poems and anti-narrative poems, but here he does a pastiche. So what's he satirizing, parodying, stealing from? Who wants to say? Molly? Sorry?
This is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember how that goes? And should we do it
just
together? This is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. All right, what's he doing with that? That's nice. It's really memorable, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that poem is so anthologizable, so, just one of those like classic Williams poems. And if you know Williams, you know that poem.
Right.
And it's, it's like this like simple refrigerator note, just sweet, beautiful moment that I think we sort of...
Sweet, beautiful?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Molly, you want to add something to that?
I mean, but it's also really a faux apology, and it's sort of a metaphor.
Williams' original was a faux apology.
Right.
Do you think Kenneth Koch's Variations on a Theme by William Carlos Williams is a faux apology?
Oh, yeah, I think it's mocking Williams's faux apology, because he's taking, eating plums to a whole extreme level of chopping down the house and giving away all her money and
breaking her leg.
Yeah.
Max?
It's called Variations on a Theme.
That's because
seems
they're
more
four
like
different.
Yeah, but it seems more like extrapolations of a theme. That it starts with stealing plums, and then next thing you know, he's chopping down your house. And,
right.
It's this sort of character, this persona of the guy who's taking what he wants, doing what he wants.
Yeah, you've already answered my question about Laskin anyway. What is the quality of William Carlos Williams that Kenneth Koch is pointing to here?
The kind of rape of the icebox quality.
Yeah, I normally don't describe rape of the icebox as a quality. Can you?
Well,
You have that rape of the icebox quality. Can we come up with some useful adjectives?
Selfish?
yeah.
Selfish. Keep going. We used to, in our discussion so long ago of Williams' poem, I think I used the word appetitious. I like that word. Yeah, desirous, appetitious.
But appetitious in a way that does not, it's like smell. He's his nose is in everything, and he's, kind of apologizing for that, but he's not going to change.
So how do you? I mean, it's the case that Kenneth Koch thought of this poem as an homage and not a rebuke. Can you see the homage, Amaris?
Maybe it is to the form of the poem, but definitely to the personality of Williams. I read it as pointing out
So
that
let's talk about the form then. I hate to
right.
use the biographical trump card, but you've used it yourself a couple times.
Biographically, I don't know.
Oh no, I didn't mean.
Okay.
I meant the form. So
Okay,
what?
so like
What do you
each
see?
variation focuses on a different line, or that's the way I read it, of the Williams poems. The first one focuses on the I am sorry, the second on the forgive me, the third on the patheticness of that excuse of the wind.
The juicy and cold.
And the fourth, I think, just underlines that relationship between Flossie and William Carlos Williams, which is one of sort of like mutual imprisonment. He felt imprisoned, so he decided that
well, that
demonstration was like
fourth one is
superiority.
really incredibly kinky,
Yeah.
right? Like I broke your leg so you could be here in the hospital, so I could be the doctor to your patient. Yeah. We won't go any further with that. But Dave, can you see any way in which you can imagine Koch and his pals, the New York School, not really Williams-esque poets in a lot of ways, to some degree? A poem like To Elsie, which we're not talking about, we haven't talked about yet, and won't. A very important poem for New York School poets, but generally speaking, they're not really Williams, but they admired him. And so, how do you see? What admiration do you see? How can pastiche be admiration?
Well, I think they're poking fun at him like you do with your friends, and they do it with, or Koch does it with humor, and the humor is endearing, and the things that he makes fun of, he does it in such an exaggerated way that it takes the seriousness behind it away. So it's just sort of a nudging your friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think Williams enabled, he gave permission to all the poets who followed him to, first of all, to use unpoetic or non-poetic material, subject matter, to take pleasure in that. And I think there's, although, you have to look at a certain Williams to find the antic, playful quality you get in the New York School poets. Koch, that little poem, like I made a poem, a famous poem, an anthologized poem out of a little refrigerator note. What can you do? And I think that the New York School poets felt they were given permission by him to, in fact, in this case, make a poem that is very widely anthologized. It is the most often, unfortunately, because Koch wrote so many other interesting New York School style poems, this is the one that he's known for. So it kind of did its magic. This is just to say, did its magic. Final word, and it is funny, and I think that's important. I think the New York School poets tend to have a ton of fun. They do. Even O'Hara, when memorializing Billie Holiday, is taking tremendous pleasure from the fantastic urban cosmopolitan randomness of his day. Final words on this one. Max, any thoughts on this? You liked it, I know.
Yeah, this is great. I like how he's playing with Williams's images, talking about the firm, juicy March wind, and just sort of. And I think it's probably where the pastiche comes in a little bit there, of course, where he's saying, these are your adjectives, and I'm gonna do what I want with them.
Okay, Molly, any thought on this? You liked it?
Oh, I think it's hilarious. And they say parody's the highest form of flattery, right?
Okay, Anna?
I think there's a certain seriousness in the Williams poem that gets totally exploded in this, which I love.
Don't take yourself so seriously, Bill.
No.
Let's face it, you have some flaws that we think are fantastic. You're kind of a sexy guy, you're an appetitious guy, let's celebrate that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Love that.
Hey, it's my turn. I want to say one thing. Pastiche. I mean, in a way, this is the first time we're seeing a real devotion to stealing, taking, borrowing, imitating, parodying as poetry itself. This is going to be really important in chapter 9. So pastiche is pretty cool. So what do you think, Allie?
I mean, one of the things that I think is so cool about the New York School is how they were also just so competitive with each other. And this is kind of, in a way, pastiching Williams is kind of putting him in there. They're not afraid to put themselves in his league, which I think is awesome.
That's cool. And also there's a kind of competitive nature that's implicit here, which is Koch says to his friends, look what I did. It's a game, in a way. Let's see what we can do. Dave?
Speaking of Williams taking himself a little too seriously, I like how each stanza focuses on a different characteristic that Williams had. I look at the first one as being his selfishness, the second one, sometimes he's just sort of random, the third one, his maybe faux populism, and the third one is just about him being controlling. I like how they used humor and expressed that.
Nice. Amaris?
And I like that it refutes the attitude of treating the poetic text as like sacred and untouchable and anthologized, as we were saying. So it is a compliment, as Molly was saying. And if we read the last line sort of metapoetically, he had the liberty of dissecting and dismembering Williams's original poem for his own creative fun and amusement.
That's
so I
cool.
like that.
Yeah, good. Emily, you always get the last word, and it's always so brilliant. Now there's no pressure on you.
Thanks, it's sort of, in of its own, is a bit of a rape of the icebox poem, right? Because just the way Williams takes someone else's plums for his own enjoyment and humor and poetic practice, he takes Williams' poem for his own humor and poetic practice.
The poem is the plum. Yeah. It's a rape of Williams. Oh, and on that note, we'll go on.